By the end of this year, over 90% of UK councils will be housing asylum seekers, a massive shift that's happening quietly but rapidly. And yet, millions of British citizens are still waiting for help, from homeless veterans sleeping rough to families stuck in temporary shelters for over a decade. How did we get to this point, where the people who built this country are being pushed aside, while newly arrived individuals, many arriving illegally, are being prioritized for housing, healthcare, and benefits? This isn't just about immigration, it's about something much deeper. Communities are being changed without warning. Council taxes are rising. Social services are stretched thin. People are starting to ask serious questions. Is this fair? Who is really making these decisions? And why is there never enough for our own, but always enough for those arriving with nothing? The anger is growing, not just in the press, but on every street, estate, and inbox across the UK. In this video, we're going to reveal 10 powerful reasons why this policy has triggered such a massive backlash, and why more and more people believe this isn't just a crisis, but a deliberate betrayal. Stay with us. Number 1. Long-term UK residents are still waiting. For decades, countless British citizens have waited patiently for council housing, some for 10, 15, even 20 years. These are people who were born here, worked here, paid taxes, and followed every rule. Many of them are raising families in overcrowded one-bedroom flats. Others are living in unsuitable accommodation due to disability, age, or illness. Some are even sleeping in cars or temporary hostels because the system has failed them completely. And yet, despite their loyalty to the country, they are being pushed further down the list, not because there's no housing, but because that housing is suddenly being handed out to those who arrived yesterday. It's not just about housing, it's about broken trust. The government has long promised to fix the housing crisis, to look after its own first. But instead, it has fast-tracked accommodation for newly arrived asylum seekers, many of whom came through illegal routes and have never contributed a single pound in tax. Families who have waited years for a phone call from the housing office are now seeing entire hotels and housing blocks filled with migrants almost overnight. To them, it feels like the rules were rewritten without warning and without consent. This isn't about hate, it's about justice. The British public isn't asking for luxury or special treatment. They are asking for fairness. If housing can be arranged urgently for tens of thousands of migrants, why can't it be arranged for the thousands of British citizens who've been waiting in silence? Why is urgency only applied when the cameras are rolling and international pressure is involved? Every time a migrant is housed ahead of a struggling British family, a deep message is sent: you don't matter. And that, more than anything else, is why this crisis is becoming unbearable for so many across the UK. Number 2. Homeless veterans and the vulnerable left on the streets. Every winter, thousands of former British soldiers, men and women who risk their lives for this country, sleep rough on cold pavements. They suffer from PTSD, addiction, and mental health issues, yet the state that once called them heroes now leaves them behind. Alongside them are vulnerable elderly citizens, disabled individuals, and abused women escaping violent homes. These are the people who desperately need safe, stable housing. But instead of priority, they receive excuses. Councils say there's not enough space, not enough funding, not enough resources. But suddenly, when it comes to housing newly arrived migrants, everything becomes available. This is the part that hits hardest for many: the double standard. Hotels, hostels, and even entire housing estates are quickly open for migrants, most of whom are young men of fighting age. Meanwhile, the very people who fought for the country, paid into the system, and followed every rule are told to wait. Again, soldiers sleep under bridges. The disabled live in mold-infested flats. Women with children are stuck in dangerous environments. And it's not because the country can't afford housing. It's because the system has decided who gets to come first. When citizens see this, it creates real pain. It's not just anger, it's betrayal. People are asking, how can a country that honors its military on Remembrance Day ignore them every other day of the year? How can the most vulnerable British citizens be pushed aside, while those who enter illegally are given free shelter and support? It's not about shutting the door on others. It's about opening the door first to those who've already earned it. When a veteran sleeps on concrete while a new arrival sleeps in a warm bed, something is seriously broken. And the public knows it. Number 3. Financial pressure on working-class taxpayers. In today's Britain, working-class families are stretched to their limits. Wages have barely moved, but council tax, energy bills, fuel costs, and food prices keep rising. Many people are working long hours, juggling multiple jobs, and still struggling to cover basic living expenses. They are cutting back on heating, skipping meals, and going without, just to make ends meet. So when they see migrants being housed, clothed, fed, and cared for, all on the taxpayers tab, frustration turns to fury. It's not because people lack compassion. It's because they are the ones paying for a system that's forgotten them. Most British workers aren't living in luxury. They are surviving. And yet, their taxes are being used to fund housing for individuals who, in many cases, arrived illegally, have not contributed to the system, and may not even be verified. We're not just talking about a few cases. We're talking about tens of thousands of people being placed into full-time housing, often with no bills, no rent, and no work requirements. Meanwhile, the people footing the bill are being told to tighten their belts and be understanding. This situation is creating a dangerous divide. On one side are the people who built this country, who work, contribute, and sacrifice daily. On the other side are individuals who are being given everything on day one, simply for arriving. It's not hard to see why resentment is building. The working class feels punished for doing the right thing, while others are rewarded for doing nothing. It's a message that says, the more you give, the less you get. And the more you demand from the system, the more likely it is to turn its back on you. If the government doesn't address this imbalance soon, the pressure won't just stay financial, it'll become political and social and explosive. Number 4. Overcrowded and underprepared communities. Many towns and cities across the UK are already at breaking point. Schools are full. GP surgeries have weeks-long waiting times. Public transport is unreliable. Council services are underfunded, and housing stock almost non-existent. Into this already strained environment, thousands of asylum seekers are now being placed without proper planning, without consultation, and without any support for the communities expected to absorb the impact. In places like Bolton, Oldham, Leicester, and beyond, people are watching their neighborhoods change rapidly, and not for the better. What's happening isn't just a shift in numbers, it's a transformation in how communities function. When dozens of people are moved into converted HMOs, houses in multiple occupation, residential streets quickly become overcrowded. Parking disappears. Rubbish piles up. Antisocial behavior increases. Locals feel outnumbered in their own neighborhoods, and councils remain silent, or worse, defensive. The result? Rising tension, not just between newcomers and locals, but between the people and the state that governs them. Because these changes weren't requested. They weren't agreed upon. They were simply imposed. The core issue isn't immigration, it's capacity. Most communities would welcome new neighbors if they were introduced gradually, with proper integration, resources, and dialogue. But what they are experiencing now feels more like a dumping ground than a plan. People see schools unable to take more pupils. They see parks and public spaces becoming overcrowded. They struggle to get GP appointments while entire new clinics are set up in migrant hubs. And they are asking, why are our needs always pushed aside? When the system can't even handle the people it's already responsible for, how can it justify importing tens of thousands more? It's not about hate, it's about basic infrastructure, and whether it can survive what's being forced upon it. Number 5. Undermining legal immigration and border control. For decades, the UK has welcomed legal immigrants through a structured process, one that involves background checks, qualifications, visas, and years of paperwork. Many of these individuals work hard, integrate into society, and contribute to the economy. But now, that entire system is being overshadowed by one simple reality. If you arrive illegally, you often get housed faster, supported more, and face fewer restrictions than those who did things the right way. This isn't just unfair. It's a slap in the face to every legal immigrant who followed the rules. People are questioning, why bother applying legally, waiting for approval, and proving your qualifications, when all you have to do is cross the channel in a dinghy to be placed in free accommodation? The current system sends a dangerous message. Those who break the law are rewarded, while those who respect it are ignored. It erodes the very principle of equal treatment under the law, and it tells the British public and the world that the UK's borders are open to anyone who knows how to bypass the process. This isn't a minor policy flaw. It's a systemic breakdown. Border control is one of the most basic responsibilities of any nation, and right now, the UK is failing to uphold it. When enforcement is weak, when deportations are rare, and when illegal entry is rewarded with housing and benefits, trust in the system collapses. Ordinary citizens and legal immigrants alike begin to see the government not as a protector, but as an enabler of chaos. And once that trust is gone, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. The problem isn't just who comes in, it's how they come in, and what message that sends to everyone already here, trying to do things the right way. This conversation isn't over. It starts with you. Drop a comment below and tell us how this is affecting your town, your family, your future. And if you haven't seen our last video, go check it out now. It connects all the missing pieces. We put real time and effort into every video we make. So if you believe in honest content, support us with just one click. Subscribe now. Number 6. Concerns about safety and social cohesion. Across the country, many communities are raising serious concerns about safety, particularly in areas where large numbers of migrants, mostly young, single men, are being housed in concentrated clusters. This isn't a stereotype or a smear. It's a reflection of real-world changes that are being felt in real time. When large groups of unfamiliar individuals arrive overnight in a town, without proper vetting, background checks, or integration plans, local residents naturally begin to feel anxious. The sudden, unplanned nature of this policy is not only overwhelming public services, it's also overwhelming public trust. Social cohesion depends on stability, communication, and shared values. But when residents feel they are losing control of their own streets, parks, and public spaces, tensions rise. There have already been reports of antisocial behavior, community disputes, and a general rise in unease, especially among women, the elderly, and parents with young children. In some areas, residents say they no longer feel safe walking alone at night or letting their children play outside. Whether the fears are rooted in reality or perception, the fact remains, people feel unsafe and unheard. None of this means people are against immigration. Britain has always been a diverse and welcoming country. But integration takes time. It takes support. And it takes limits. When thousands of people are dropped into unfamiliar communities with no clear oversight or expectations, the social fabric starts to tear. It's not hate that fuels these concerns, it's lived experience. And when leaders dismiss those concerns as prejudice, they fail to understand the real damage being done. Community trust is fragile. And once it's broken, restoring it becomes almost impossible. People want to feel safe in their own neighborhoods. Right now, many feel anything but. Number 7. Lack of government transparency. Perhaps one of the most infuriating aspects of this entire crisis is how it's being handled, not just what's being done, but how little the public is being told. In many parts of the UK, residents are discovering that migrants are being housed in their communities after the fact, with zero notice, no consultation, and no opportunity for questions. Decisions are made quietly, behind closed doors, with local councils and national government simply telling the public to accept it. It feels less like policy and more like an ambush. This top-down approach has created a deep sense of resentment. People don't just want to be heard, they deserve to be heard. Communities have a right to know who is being moved into their neighborhoods, how long they'll be there, what support systems are in place, and how local resources will be protected. Instead, they are given vague statements, half-truths, or, in many cases, complete silence. When the public sees hotels suddenly filled, when housing blocks are taken over, or when schools are overcrowded with no explanation, trust in government rapidly disappears. The reality is, transparency builds cooperation, secrecy destroys it. When people feel ignored, they begin to resist. They stop trusting official narratives. They assume the worst. And that's where conspiracy, misinformation, and division begin to grow. The government's refusal to be honest and upfront with the public is only making the situation worse. It gives the impression that leaders either don't care or are deliberately hiding the truth. And in either case, that's a failure of leadership. If this plan was genuinely in the public interest, why keep it in the shadows? Why hide it from the very people it affects the most? Number 8. A sense of betrayal by political leadership. Across the UK, one emotion is growing louder than ever: betrayal. For years, politicians, from both Labour and Conservative parties, have promised to fix the immigration system, secure the borders, and prioritise the British people. Yet, despite countless headlines, speeches, and slogans like "Stop the boats" or "Smash the gangs," little has changed. In fact, for many, it's only getting worse. The promises sound good on camera, but the results on the ground tell a different story. A story of broken systems, ignored citizens, and leaders who seem more concerned about global approval than national stability. This feeling isn't just political, it's personal. People who voted in good faith, who believed in policies that promised fairness and order, now feel deceived. They were told that things would improve, that action would be taken, that rules would be enforced. Instead, they are watching wave after wave of illegal arrivals being fast-tracked into housing, while their own families continue to struggle. And the worst part? Those responsible rarely face consequences. Ministers offer recycled talking points, opposition parties stay silent, and no one seems willing to take real responsibility. What's left is a growing belief that the government, no matter who's in charge, is no longer working for its own people. Many feel that British citizens have become second class in their own country, that policies are being made to serve international agendas, not national interests. And when leaders repeatedly ignore public concern, dismiss valid criticism, or label worried citizens as bigots, they only deepen the divide. This isn't about left or right. It's about a government that has forgotten who it serves. And for millions across Britain, that betrayal is no longer just political. It's personal, painful, and unforgettable. Number 9. Threat to British identity and local traditions. For many people, this crisis goes beyond housing and policy. It touches something deeper, a growing fear of losing what it means to be British. Across towns and cities, rapid demographic changes are happening so fast that longtime residents are feeling like strangers in their own neighborhoods. In areas where entire streets have been taken over by temporary accommodations, where English is no longer the dominant language in local shops or schools, people are quietly asking themselves, what happened to our culture? To our traditions? To the country we grew up in? This isn't about rejecting others. Britain has always been a multicultural nation, proudly home to people of all races, faiths, and backgrounds. But multiculturalism only works when it's built gradually, with respect, integration, and shared values. What many are seeing now doesn't feel like inclusion, it feels like replacement. When newcomers are brought in by the thousands, without understanding the laws, values, or customs of the country, it creates deep cultural friction. People fear the erosion of things they hold dear, from national holidays and public traditions to the basic sense of unity and familiarity they once felt in their local communities. And when they speak up, they are often silenced. Politicians and media figures brand them as intolerant or backwards, when in reality, they are simply expressing the human need to belong. Identity matters, history matters, and people are watching it all change around them without having any say in the process. The real tragedy is that this feeling of cultural loss is now being tied directly to the migrant crisis, not because people hate outsiders, but because they feel abandoned by the very leaders meant to protect and preserve what makes Britain, Britain. When national identity becomes a casualty of political inaction, resentment is inevitable. Number 10. Fear that this is just the beginning. Perhaps the most alarming concern among the British public isn't just what's happening now, it's what comes next. The government has already admitted it needs to place 66,000 asylum seekers across the UK. And with boats still arriving, conflicts overseas continuing, and no clear long-term plan in sight, people are asking, is this the new normal? Or is this just the start of something even bigger? There's a growing fear that the crisis we're seeing today is only the first wave, and that future waves will be even harder to stop. The worry isn't just about numbers. It's about sustainability. How many people can the system really support before it collapses under the weight? How long before schools, hospitals, and housing infrastructure reach breaking point, not just in one town or city, but everywhere? Many believe that unless serious action is taken now, Britain is heading toward a future of permanent overcrowding, cultural division, and economic strain. And once that future becomes reality, it will be almost impossible to reverse. People are starting to feel like they are being replaced in their own country, not by accident, but by design. They are worried that this mass migration isn't just poorly managed, but deliberately encouraged, with the long-term goal of reshaping society. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't change the growing anxiety across the population. from high streets to rural towns, from veterans to working families. The question on everyone's mind is the same. If this is just the beginning, what does the end look like? And who, if anyone, will finally stand up and say, enough is enough? After breaking down these 10 points, one thing becomes painfully clear. This isn't just about immigration. It's about priorities, values, and the slow erosion of public trust. British citizens are being told to wait, to sacrifice, to accept, while others, who've just arrived, are handed housing, support, and protection without delay. For many, this feels like a betrayal. A system that once promised fairness now rewards rule-breaking, punishes patience, and silences those who dare to speak up. From housing and healthcare to safety and social identity, people across the country are watching their lives change, and not for the better. They are being left out of the conversation, left behind by leadership, and left wondering whether anyone in power truly represents them anymore. This isn't about racism or fear-mongering. It's about asking the very question every citizen has the right to ask: what about us? Because when your own government no longer puts you first, it's not just a crisis, it's a turning point. So now it's over to you. Is your area being affected? Have you seen changes in your community? Do you believe this policy is helping or hurting Britain? Let your voice be heard in the comments below. This is your country and your future. And if you believe more people need to hear the truth, hit like, subscribe, and share this video with others. We'll keep bringing you the facts the mainstream won't touch. Because if we don't speak up now, it may soon be too late to speak at all.